All right, so the next topic is Android intents. First of all, we'll go through the basic introduction of it, and then we'll directly go to the demonstration. I'm going to show you how we can implement Android intent. So before we go ahead for the implementation, you should first of all understand what Android intents are and why are we using them in an Android application. So what is it? Basically, Android intent is the message that is passed between components such as activities, content providers, and broadcast receivers and the services. So whatever the activities, an Android application is made up of activities, content providers, and broadcast receivers, and the services that you get from the Android application. So whatever the messages, they are passing each other in order to communicate each other, they are called as Android intent. So they are done by the intents of Android. So you can say Android intent is the message that is passed between components such as activities, content providers, comma, broadcast receivers, BROAD, broadcast receivers, services, etc. Receivers, etc. All right, so it's generally used with start activity. It's used with the method start activity, START-ACITIVY activity method to invoke activity, comma, broadcast receivers, etc. So the dictionary meaning of intent is intention or any purpose. If you want a general meaning of intent, it means an intention. Somebody's going to have the intention, he want to have this particular thing. His intention was not, you can say that I went there on a place and he was trying to do something. I think that his intention about me was not good. All right. So it can be described as the intention to do any action. So in here, so the intention is to do the actions in between those, all the files which we are using for activities, content providers, and broadcast services, or you can say receivers. All right. So the label or the labeled intent is the subclass of Android content.intent class. And they are, what is the main use of intents? The main use of intents are, they are going to help us to start the service, to launch an activity. They can help us to display a web page. They can help us to display a list of contacts. They can display a, or they can also help us to display or broadcast a message. And they will also help us to dial a phone call. So whatever, you have your mobile phone with you, everybody is using that. When you dial a mobile phone call, you're typing the words. Those words are basically dialed by intents. So they are doing any action. When you click on something, it's an intent who's doing that action. It's basically passing your messages to activities, to content providers, to broadcast, or to receivers. Even if you have, an icon of a mobile application on your mobile phone. So for example, you have WhatsApp. When you click on that, particularly first thing, when you click on that, it's going to hit an intent. Then intent will just go and just try to communicate with the application services, or you can say broadcast receivers or activities, and then only you will be able to have your view of your application. All right, so those are what intents are all about. So there are types of Android intents. So types of Android intents. First is implicit, I-M-P-L-I-C-I-T, implicit intent. And second is explicit. Explicit intent. So what is implicit intent? First of all, we're going to discuss this one. Implicit intent does not, D-O-E-S-N, it does not specify the component. In case, or in such case, intent provides information of available components, COMs, provided by the system that is to be invoked. It does not specify the component. It's not going to help you to specify any particular component that you want, but what it's going to do, it's going to just provide you the information which is already available in the components which are provided by the system. So whatever is there in the system, whatever the components or information you do have in the system, it's going to help you to provide the information about those particular components. For example, you may write the code I'm not going to discuss here. I'm going to write it later on. Then explicit intent is going to specify the content. It's just reverse of it. It's going to help you to specify its own content that you want to have. So specify its own content. In such case, intent provides the external clause to be invoked. This is what is it all about. Now we are going to take an example of both these clauses, or you can say intents. Example of implicit intent. This is the main project. All right, so I'm going to move down a bit. So I'm going to take an example of it. I will create a new project. I will name it as Android implicit intent, and we have to just modify only activity main XML file, main class.java file. That's it. These are the two files where we're going to use intents, and I'm going to make you sure what are intents. Okay, but we can use the class library intent, or we can use the class intent to create any object like intent. The name of the object is equal to new intent. Let's go through it. Let's try to create a project, Android project. So file, new project, empty application. I'm gonna use, or I'm gonna name it as Android implicit intent. If you want, you can use legacy Android support libraries, but let it be, finish it. That's my main project. I will close the previous one, expand it, go to main activity, XML. Here, what I'm gonna do, I don't need this text view. Instead of it, I have to add, or I'm gonna add edit text, EDIT TXT widget, edit text. So layout width, which is always mandatory, and for both cases, I'm gonna choose wrap content and unwrap content. Android ID, sorry, Android ID attribute plus ID, and I'm going to name it as edit text. You should place T as text to make a difference. Next properties are, for example, margin and. So Android layout margin and. I'm going to set it as at the end of the margin. I'm going to set it as 8 dp. Next is Android margin start. So margin start, I'm going to set it as 8 dp again. Then Android margin top layout margin top, and it should be 60 dp. Then after that, Android EMS, it should be 10. And then about the app layout, so app layout constraint end-to-end off. So end-to-end off is here, the property, and it should be parent. Next, app layout constant horizontal bias. So constraint, type in constraint H, and you will get horizontal base here, and it should be 0.575. Then again, app layout constant start to start off, it should be parent. Then app layout top to top off, and it should be again parent. That's it. Next thing is I will add a button which will help me to submit or visit a link. So wrap content. But before that, Android ID is very important. There are 10 minutes for this particular lesson, and with this we'll take a break. So @ID button will be the name of the ID, which will help me later on to create or just fetch the details of it. So then Android layout margin right, and the right hand side the margin should be 8 dp. That's it, khalas. And then margin left layout margin left, and the left hand side the margin should be 156 dp. Then Android margin top, so margin top or here is the attribute, and I can say 172 dp. And then Android text, and it should be visit the link. App layout constraint end-to-end off. Wasting time. End-to-end off. First one. Parent. Then app space layout constraint horizontal bias. So layout constraint horizontal bias, and it should be 0.0 now. Then app layout start to start off, it should be parent again. And then app layout bottom to bottom off, and it should be @ID edit text, the ID of edit text widget. That's it, Kalas. We're done with this. And now we will directly go and open our main Java file, which is already open. First of all, we need to define the variables, as we have added two things, edit text and button. Let's go to use button and define one object called button, and then again edit text and define one, and then what we have to do, we will call them. So here I'm going to use the variable button or object button is equal to button very fast find view by ID or dot ID dot the name of the ID is, I guess it's button or it's button. Yep, it's button. So ID it's button. That's it. And after that, edit text equals to edit text is the library. So find view by ID or dot ID dot edit text. That's it. Then we'll create button on click set on click listener new view dot on click listener. Okay. Then here I'm going to create string variable URL is equal to edit text dot get text dot to string semicolon, and then I will create an intent now. Intent is equal to intent object is equal to new intent, and inside it will say intent dot action view intent action view comma URI dot parse URL. That's it. And then we can say start activity. Intent. There is one issue here. Why is it so? View dot on click listener public. Oh, the main important thing I have not added. I thought it's already override public void on click method is not created, so it's a mistake which I thought it created it automatically. View, then this part is control X, it's inside it, but still the problem is here. Why it's not giving it? Start activity, yes, it's here. Start activity, intent. No, not variable intent. Intent. That's it. Save it, and when you run it, I have given the URL. I have stored URL. So no, not an issue. Suppose that I am going to run this application now. You can see I have added, you can see a button which is visit, which I have added using Android main XML. This is button and it's visit text here, main activity, and also there is edit text. So edit text is here. So for example, what is the method that I have created in the main activity Java file on, this is on click listener, string URL edit text get text to string intent new intent action menu URL parse and start activity. This is just an intent. When you go and click on this particular visit link, it's not doing anything. All right, so let me just run it again. And now here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type a URL, HTTPS, then I will say www.apptechqatar.com, okay? And then I will click, why it's not going? And then I will click on visit link. You can see automatically it's going to communicate. That's intent. It's going to communicate with the browser which is installed, and Google Chrome is the installed browser. You can accept it. Next, no thanks. You can see it will link you to AppTech Qatar and you can have the web page. That's an intent. You know, in the back side or in the background, it will contact with the service that will help you to open this particular link, and it's going to help you to open this link, which is apptechqatar.com. Once again, if you want anything else, now this was the first time, that's why it asked me to open Google Chrome, but now suppose that I am just searching for AppTech Qatar and just visit. You can see it's going to directly show me this thing, but mostly you need to type, it's for just URLs only. So what you can do is, suppose you want to type in apple.com, so apple.com, but it should be in HTTPS format. So HTTPS, the complete URL should be there,